Tony Marcello was halfway through his last bite of steak when he realized Bumpy Johnson knew everything. The fork froze at his lips. His eyes met Bumpy's across the table at Lennox Lounge. And in that moment, Tony understood three things. First, the Genovese family had lied when they promised him protection. Second, the $50,000 they'd paid him to sabotage Bumpy's policy banks wasn't enough to buy his life back. Third, he was never leaving this restaurant alive. Bumpy sat perfectly still, hands folded on the white tablecloth, that terrifying calm in his eyes that everyone in Harlem knew meant someone was about to learn a permanent lesson. Around them, 50 witnesses pretended not to watch, but every person in that room felt the voltage in the air, felt the weight of what was coming. Tony's hand moved slowly toward the gun in his waistband. Bumpy smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile that said he'd been waiting for this moment, planning for it, counting on it. What Tony didn't know, what the Genovese family didn't know, was that Bumpy Johnson had known about the betrayal for 3 weeks. And everything that happened next, every second of the violence that was about to unfold, Bumpy had orchestrated with surgical precision. This is the story of how Bumpy Johnson dealt with traitors, and why, after this night, no one in New York's underworld ever betrayed him again. To understand what happened at Lennox Lounge that night in 1949, you need to understand who Tony the Snake Marcello was, and why his betrayal cut so deep. Tony wasn't Italian. That was the first surprise. He was half Sicilian, half Irish, raised in Hell's Kitchen, orphaned at 12 when his father got killed in a dock workers' dispute. Tony had survived by being smart, quick, and completely without loyalty to anyone except the highest bidder. By the time he was 25, he'd worked for 5 different crews. The Irish Westies, the Eastman Gang, Dutch Schultz's remnants. He was a mercenary, a gun for hire, the kind of man who'd shake your hand while planning to stab you in the back. In 1946, Tony showed up in Harlem looking for work. He approached Bumpy at Small's Paradise. Respectful, humble, told him he wanted to get out of the mercenary life, wanted to work for someone he could respect. Bumpy was skeptical. Everyone knew Tony's reputation, but Tony was persistent. He proved himself. Small jobs at first, collecting debts, protecting policy runners. He was good at it, efficient, and after 6 months, Bumpy gave him more responsibility. By 1948, Tony was managing 3 of Bumpy's policy banks, counting houses where the numbers money came in every night, got counted, recorded, and distributed. Trusted work. High-level work. That's when the Genovese family made their move. Vito Genovese, fresh from consolidating power after Frank Costello's influence waned, wanted Harlem. He'd tried force before and failed. He'd tried negotiation and been shut down. So he tried something different. Corruption from within. Genovese sent his underboss, a calculating man named Michael the Butcher Rizzo, to find Bumpy's weakest link. Rizzo did his research, talked to informants, studied Bumpy's operation, and he found Tony Marcello. A man with no real loyalty. A man motivated purely by money. A man who could be bought. The approach happened in early March 1949. Tony was leaving one of Bumpy's counting houses on 132nd Street when a black Cadillac pulled up. Rizzo was in the back seat. Tony knew who he was. Everyone did. Tony got in the car. The conversation was brief, $50,000. That was the offer. All Tony had to do was sabotage Bumpy's policy banks, not steal. That would be too obvious. Just create problems, lose betting slips, miscalculate payouts, make it look like incompetence, not betrayal. The goal was to make Bumpy look weak, unreliable. When people stopped trusting his operation, when runners started questioning whether they'd get paid, the Genovese family would move in, offer stability, and take over. Tony said yes. Not because he hated Bumpy. He didn't. He just loved money more than he valued loyalty. For 3 weeks, Tony executed the plan perfectly. Betting slips went missing. Winning numbers got miscalculated. Runners started complaining they weren't getting their full cuts. Small problems. Nothing catastrophic. Just enough to create doubt. Just enough to make people whisper that maybe Bumpy was losing his touch. But what Tony didn't know was that Bumpy Johnson had eyes everywhere. One of those eyes was a young runner named Jerome, the same man who'd warned Bumpy about Big Sam's betrayal years earlier. Jerome noticed the discrepancies first, brought them to Bumpy's attention. At first, Bumpy thought it was honest mistakes, but when the pattern continued, when it was always the same 3 policy banks, all managed by Tony, Bumpy knew. He didn't react immediately. That wasn't Bumpy's style. Instead, he watched. Had Jerome and 2 other trusted men follow Tony. Within a week, they'd photographed Tony meeting with Michael Rizzo. Photographed money changing hands. Documented everything. Bumpy could have killed Tony quietly. Made him disappear into the East River. That's what most men in his position would have done. But Bumpy Johnson wasn't most men. He understood something deeper. Tony's betrayal wasn't just about Tony. It was about the Genovese family testing him, probing for weakness. If Bumpy handled this quietly, the Italians would just find another Tony. Another weak link. Another way in. No, this had to be public. This had to be a message so clear, so brutal, that no one would ever make the mistake of betraying Bumpy Johnson again. Bumpy sent word to Tony on a Friday evening. Simple message. Dinner at Lennox Lounge. Just the 2 of us. Need to discuss expanding your responsibilities. Tony should have known it was a trap, but greed makes men stupid. He thought Bumpy was going to promote him, give him more policy banks to manage, more opportunity to sabotage, more money from the Genovese family. Tony arrived at Lennox Lounge just after sunset. The place was packed. Friday night in Harlem meant jazz, cognac, and the best ribs in New York. 50 people filled the restaurant. Musicians, hustlers, businessmen, politicians, everyone who mattered. Tony walked to Bumpy's usual corner booth. Bumpy was already sitting there. Impeccable as always in a charcoal gray suit, white shirt, his trademark fedora on the seat beside him. 2 plates were on the table. Ribeye steaks, medium rare, mashed potatoes, collard greens. Tony's favorite meal. Bumpy had ordered it special. Tony sat down, smiling, confident. Bumpy gestured to the food. "Eat, we'll talk business after." For 20 minutes, they ate in silence. Tony cut his steak, savored each bite, drank the bourbon Bumpy had poured for him. The best bourbon, top shelf. Everything perfect, everything comfortable. Tony was relaxed. That was the point. Bumpy set down his fork, dabbed his mouth with his napkin, folded it precisely, and placed it on the table. Then he looked at Tony with those cold, calculating eyes that had stared down Dutch Schultz, Lucky Luciano, and every other man who'd ever challenged him. "Tell me something, Tony. Do you think I'm stupid?" Tony's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "What? Do you think I'm stupid?" Bumpy repeated, his voice quiet, almost conversational. "Do you think I don't notice when my policy banks start losing money? When betting slips go missing? When my runners stop getting paid correctly?" Tony's face went pale. His hands started to shake. "Boss, I can explain. Can you explain the photographs I have of you meeting with Michael Rizzo? Can you explain the $50,000 the Genovese family paid you to destroy my operation from the inside? Tony's eyes darted around the room, looking for an exit, looking for help. But every person in that restaurant was watching now. Conversations had stopped. The jazz band had gone quiet. 50 witnesses, all of them loyal to Bumpy. All of them watching the traitor realize he'd been caught. "I trusted you," Bumpy said, and for the first time, there was emotion in his voice. Not anger, disappointment. "I gave you a chance when everyone told me you were a snake. I gave you responsibility, I paid you well, and you sold me out for what? 50,000? Tony's hand moved toward his waistband, where he kept a snub-nosed revolver. It was instinct, desperation, the move of a man who knows he's cornered. Bumpy saw it. Everyone saw it. Tony's fingers wrapped around the grip, started to pull. But Bumpy Johnson had been fighting since he was 10 years old. Street fights in Charleston, prison riots, wars over territory. He'd learned something most men never learned. Speed matters less than certainty. Tony pulled his gun, got it halfway out of his waistband, but Bumpy's right hand was already moving. Not toward a gun, toward the straight razor in his vest pocket. The same razor he'd carried for 20 years. The same blade that had opened Dutch Schultz's enforcer from ear to ear. The same weapon that had convinced Lucky Luciano to negotiate instead of fight. Bumpy's hand moved with practiced precision, pulled the razor, flicked it open in one smooth motion. Tony's gun cleared his waistband, started to rise. Bumpy was faster, not because he was quicker, because he'd known this moment was coming, had prepared for it, had visualized exactly how it would happen. The razor flashed in the low light of the restaurant. One quick, brutal motion. Bumpy's arm extended. The blade caught Tony across the throat. Deep, arterial. A cut so precise, it severed everything that mattered. Tony's gun clattered to the floor. His hands went to his throat, trying to stop what couldn't be stopped. Blood poured between his fingers. Dark, pulsing. He tried to speak, tried to beg, tried to apologize. But the only sound that came out was a wet, choking gurgle. Tony fell forward. His face hit the plate, shattering it. His body convulsed once, twice, then went still. Blood pooled on the white tablecloth, spreading like a dark flower blooming in fast motion. The restaurant was absolutely silent. 50 people stared at the dead man, lying across the table. At Bumpy Johnson sitting calmly, cleaning his razor with his napkin. At the message being delivered in the most brutal terms possible. Bumpy stood up, looked around the room, made eye contact with every person there. "This man betrayed me," Bumpy said, his voice carrying to every corner of the restaurant. He sold out Harlem for Italian money. He thought loyalty was negotiable. He was wrong. Bumpy folded the razor, put it back in his vest pocket. Betrayal has a price. Tonight, Tony Marcello paid it. Tomorrow, anyone else thinking about selling me out can remember what they saw here. Can remember that Bumpy Johnson doesn't make threats. He makes promises. And he keeps every single one. Bumpy walked out of Lennox Lounge at exactly the same moment he'd walked in. Calm, composed, leaving Tony's body bleeding out on the table for everyone to see. By morning, every mobster in New York knew what happened. The Genovese family held an emergency meeting. Michael Rizzo, the underboss who'd recruited Tony, expected retaliation. Expected Bumpy to come for him next. Instead, Bumpy sent him a package. Inside was a photograph. Tony's body on the table at Lennox Lounge, and a note in Bumpy's handwriting. Next time you want Harlem, come yourself. Stop sending messengers. Vito Genovese read the note, looked at the photograph, and made a decision. We leave Harlem alone. Michael started to protest. Vito cut him off. You sent a traitor into his organization, and he caught him in 3 weeks. He killed him in front of 50 witnesses, and nobody said a word to the police. Nobody testified. Nobody broke. That's not just power, that's loyalty. And you can't buy loyalty. You can't steal it. You can't infiltrate it. Either you earn it or you don't. Bumpy earned it. We didn't. The Genovese family never tried to take Harlem again. The other families took note. After Tony Marcello died choking on his own blood at Lennox Lounge, betraying Bumpy Johnson became something nobody was willing to risk. Not for 50,000, not for 500,000, because everyone understood. The money wasn't worth dying for. And Bumpy Johnson always collected his debts. Always. Tony, the Snake. Marcello was buried in an unmarked grave in Potter's Field. No funeral, no mourners. No one claimed the body. He died the way he lived, alone, loyal to nothing except money. And in the end, the money didn't save him. Bumpy Johnson lived another 19 years after that night. He went to prison, came back, ruled Harlem until his death in 1968. But he never had another traitor in his organization. Never had another insider working against him. Because everyone remembered. Everyone knew. Cross Bumpy Johnson, and you don't get a warning. You get a razor across the throat and a table at Lennox Lounge, where 50 people watch you die. That night in 1949, Bumpy proved something. The Italian mob, the Irish gangs, and every criminal organization in New York needed to understand. In Harlem, loyalty wasn't optional. It wasn't negotiable. It wasn't for sale. And the price of betrayal was always the same. Your life, paid in full, in front of witnesses.